Hello, this week's a very special episode. This was the live podcast presented by the Harry Butler Institute at Murdoch University, where I speak to Professor Rachel Standish in celebration of her promotion to Professor. This was such a fun experience. It was so awesome. The audience was so engaged. Please enjoy this special edition of Paramount Importance. Wowee, this is absolutely crazy to see so many people here tonight. Come celebrate the promotion of Professor Rachel Standish. She's a very special person, as I guess a lot of you guys would know. I first met Rachel 8 years ago as a student on ecology camp, which is a second year unit run at this university. Back then, when I did as a student, I was up in Jurien Bay, and in that week you do two projects. You do one marine project and one environmental project. And that way students can try both disciplines and learn new things. In the week that I was there, I did the environmental project in the second half, and on the last day of fieldwork, I was probably feeling a little bit less enthusiastic than normal, and it wasn't because it wasn't interesting. It was because, I guess, after a few nights of socialising with fellow classmates to the early hours of the morning, that I kind of felt a little bit sorry for myself. And I sort of found myself on that last day when we were out there in the bush in the Bankshire woodland collecting cones and seeds. I was just sitting on this hill overlooking the Bankshire woodland, and it was quite picturesque, and I was maybe avoiding a little bit of the work. But Rachel came and sat down beside me, and I went, oh shit, I might be in trouble here. But I wasn't. She just came and sat down and we just started chatting. And I want to point out to everyone that when you're a second year student and you've just come to university, like you've just had a world of opportunities opened up to you, you're mixing with some very bright people and some students that are at different stages in their career. And it can be quite overwhelming and daunting at that time because sometimes you don't know where you want to do or where you want to go. And you're also learning some pretty complex things, and you can start wondering, like, oh, can I even do this? And I don't exactly remember what Rachel and I spoke about, but what I do remember is the feeling going, I was like, oh, Rachel's actually pretty cool. She came to me and she wasn't belittling or condescending. It generally felt like she cared what I had to say and how I felt and wanted to help me out. And yeah, she came to me like a friend with a lot of wisdom. And it was in that moment that I thought, I remembered that time and how I felt with speaking to Rachel, that moment probably helped me through my career for a long period of time. If we fast forward a couple of years now, a couple of years after that, I've been teaching in that unit for probably 5 or 6 years, and every single year I see Rachel generally help and care for every single student. And to me, that is what makes a good academic a great academic, to help inspire the young budding scientists coming through, because we know we all need them, and it makes what Rachel is a very special person. So without further ado, I think let's get into this podcast. Well, I guess everyone might be wondering, why did we walk into AC/DC?
Ren will know. Where is she? A nod to my Bogan roots, I think.
Yeah, it is a classic. So, how did we end up here? Where did your story begin?
Yeah, wow. So I was born in Fremantle, which is not far from where we are now. I spent time with Mum and Dad in Cottesloe and Albany before they bought a block in what was the very new suburb of Bull Creek. And they built a house, and it was about the time that this university established, actually. Mum and Dad were very strong on the work ethic and getting an education, and my sister and I took that pretty seriously. So we both dutifully did our schoolwork and went to university and got degrees. I remember Dad made me a desk, and I can just remember being very happy at that desk in my own little world, reading about stuff, learning. From there I went to UWA. I had intended to study a year and then enter to apply and do law. And so then you, at UWA you had to do a year of another degree before they would accept your application, and I thought, well, I'm more into science than arts, so I'll do the science and I'll mix in a bit of arts units as well. And then by the end of the first year I decided that I was just going to stick with the science because I was really enjoying that. I met some lifelong friends, some of whom are here tonight.
Was this socialising to the early hours of the morning?
I didn't like beer at first, but by second year it was kind of, part of it. Camps at Rottnest, that was our sort of second year ecology camp at Rottnest, lots of fun. I did honours studying a cowrie that occurs at Rottnest. It comes down in the Lewin Current. It's a tropical cowrie. It's a type of invertebrate that lives on the rocky intertidal. And through that, went to the Abrolhos, spent time at Rottnest. Yeah, it was just a lot of fun doing that project. By the end of that, though, I still wasn't sure, where my degree was going to take me. My friends' parents would ask me, "Oh, so you're going to work in a zoo?" because the major was zoology, and I would say no, but then I wasn't actually quite sure what the other options were. And I applied for a job at the University of Wollongong as a research assistant, and so surprised that I actually got it. So I was very, very chuffed at that. But then cried in the plane all the way there because, I was moving away from home. That was only the second time I'd been on a plane. I was 21, and it was sort of that whole adventure all at once. Took the bus from Sydney to Wollongong, and the bus came down over the escarpment, and it's a stunning landscape there, just south of Sydney, and saw the beach, saw the escarpment. I thought, oh yeah, this will do. I can make this do. And I'd gone there to work in a lab, but the field work was on the Great Barrier Reef. So I was pretty fortunate. I was studying connectivity in corals. So corals have two different types of life strategies. They either mass spawners, so they spawn all their gametes at once into the water, and somehow the sperms and eggs meet, and that happens, and it's a massive event, and it's triggered by the full moon and so on, and you see that. And then the other strategy is they're called brooding strategies, so the gametes will fertilise within the coral skeleton and hang out there. So we were comparing those two strategies and what it meant for connectivity on the reef, and how quickly a reef would recover from disturbance if other gametes came in and so on. What I learnt about my time there, I think, was I grew in confidence. The person running the lab and my boss was just a super nice guy, David Eyre. He's passed away now, but very encouraging of me. I ran a seminar series while I was there, and things like that to help develop my own career, not just work for him. So buoyed by that sort of adventure, a PhD opportunity came up in New Zealand, and I thought, oh well, I've come this far, why not sort of go the next step? And the thing about that time was that although New Zealand is a small country, they were at the time, and are still now, like really punching above their weight in terms of conservation initiatives. And one in particular, so the New Zealand flora and fauna has evolved in the absence of mammals. The only mammals they've got naturally are bats and dolphins. And so the birds are phenomenal, but they're also highly naive to predators. They're just not used to having predators around. So when the European colonists came over and brought cats and rats and ferrets and stoats, they just ate all the wildlife. And this was a very terrible thing. And so there was concern around, what do we do? And New Zealand's got a ton of offshore islands, so they just started killing all the pests on the offshore islands as conservation reserves for the native wildlife, and it worked. And we've actually brought that technology back to Australia. Anyway, I didn't go there to work on birds, even though they're amazing. New Zealand also has a lot of weeds, which is a common problem for island continents like New Zealand. And I studied the impact of an invasive weed on lowland forests and their ability to regenerate. It basically smothered all the native seedlings on the forest floor. And that was a really enjoyable time. And I took a break and had my children, Tasman and Rata, and had a really nice time at home with them, where I just gave up the career for a while. Really glad I did that. And then, when I was ready to jump back in, I applied for a position with Richard Hobbs, who's over there. Hello, Richard. Who was a very well-renowned restoration ecologist. So Richard's speciality was thinking about ecological theory and how we could apply it to restoration of ecosystems, not just conservation, as in locking them away and hoping that will do, but actually intervening to help repair them. I missed out on the job with Richard, but I said, well, Richard, I was probably typing an email. We're going to be really brave and come back to Australia anyway. Neither of us, my husband and I, didn't have jobs. We've got 2 small children to look after. But we're just going to do it. And thankfully, he wrote back about a week later and said, well, actually, another position's come up that is probably more suited to your interests. Then I started a very productive, happy 10-year period working with Richard, firstly at Murdoch and then at UWA. Then finally here. And I've been here 10 years.
10 years?
Yeah, as a research and teaching academic.
I want to jump back a little bit, because you were first in the marine space and then straight into terrestrial. What was why?
Yeah, why did I do that? Look, I'm not wedded to any one system in particular. I find it all pretty fascinating, really, and ecology, the theory, applies to wet and dry systems, so I wasn't worried about that. And but I was concerned about diving for my PhD, because you have to have a buddy all the time. It's a lot harder to do experiments underwater, and by that stage I decided that doing experiments was part of what I wanted to do, so I thought, oh well, I'll just jump back on land. And you could, it wasn't that I was so specialised that I couldn't, jump back. So.
It all started from there. You mentioned, I've heard you talk about it before, but what has been the craziest experiment that you've ever had?
Oh, wow. In the early 2000s, it was very trendy, if you like, to do climate change impact type experiments. So using rainout shelters to determine and predict impacts of a drying climate on our vegetation. And I went to see Richard. Oh, Richard, I think we should do one of these experiments. And it was crazy. So I designed this rainout shelter, and I was doing it in Banksia woodland in the urban space. So I thought, rather than have it be tampered with, I'll put it up and take it down as I needed to.
So what does a rainout shelter look like?
So mine were sort of metal pole structures, and that had a perspex kind of tent. Imagine a massive tent. It was a 4 metre by 4 metre massive tent. And the experiment was to exclude half the rain. So every time it rained, I was like, okay, how much has my experiment got? And do I need to run out there and put up the shelter before the next rain event? And I did this for a whole year. Fortunately, with Mediterranean climate, it only really rains for about 8 months of the year, but it was manic. And
is this like all times of night as well?
Not the night. just the day. But, you know, always running around the department trying to find someone to come and help me because I couldn't do it by myself. And one memorable Saturday morning, I remember we took the kids grocery shopping, as you do on a Saturday. And then it was like, okay, now we're going to go and check Mum's experiment. And they were like kicking the footy around while I was checking that all my shelters weren't going to fall down in the next event. Yeah, it was a plan to do it over 2 years, but by the end of that first year, I was like, nah.
Yeah, fair enough. Do your kids remember it fondly, or are they a bit like, why are we here?
Why are we here? Yeah.
So along the lines of, well, actually, what did you find out about that experiment? Did it change the plants, or?
Plants need water to grow.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
There was a few more nuances, but you know.
Yeah. So you need a PhD to know that?
Yeah.
So along the lines of being crazy though, you are a crazy runner. You run marathons all the time. You qualified for the Boston Marathon. How has running impacted your life?
Yeah, wow. Some of my running buddies are here tonight. Hello. It's been awesome. So as a person, as you probably can appreciate, I spend a lot of time in my head. Running's one of the few things I can do that gets me out of my head, I think. My body's going, you're doing something quite difficult right now, so you're not allowed to think, you know, you just have to run. And it's been, especially the Saturday morning habit, because you just like get rid of all that work stress from the week. You have a random silly conversation about everything and nothing with the group that you're running with, and I've found it very, very helpful.
How do you balance it though? Because like you mentioned just this week you had to do 75-minute runs, 60-minute runs, plus you got to do work. Like it's a fair lot to balance. Like your job is not easy.
I go to bed at 8:30. Sorry, Jonathan. I'm a boring partner, probably. So and you just got to fit it in. Like otherwise, you're a one-dimensional person, and that's pretty boring, isn't it?
Do you think it's quite important?
Yeah.
Like you said, to get you out of your head.
Yeah.
I think we've spoken about it before, but sort of say like the 4 pillars of life, or to be healthy is like exercise, sleep, diet, and I think socialising with friends and family is quite important. I think if you have those as your main priorities first, then I feel like you could take on a lot more. So I can see how running has like really helped you to have that step away from work and be able to focus. So jumping back into research, what has been one of your most impactful areas of research that you've been involved with?
Good question. So the project I first started out with Richard was understanding why some of our abandoned farmlands in the wheat belt of Western Australia don't recover native vegetation like they do other parts of the world. Richard had noticed that they tended to get stuck in these sort of persistent weedy states. I spent, sort of 3 or 4 years studying that, and then that sort of led into informing what you might do in the carbon market. So it kind of, one thing led to another, and before you know it, you've got this sort of whole line of inquiry that just kind of makes sense and actually helps the carbon market move forward in a positive way. So that I felt like that's been impactful in terms of the applied ecology, but also in the sort of policy landscape management sort of space, if you like.
So what's this carbon market?
It pays people to try and sequester carbon in vegetation as one example. There are other ways of accruing carbon credits, but the one I'm familiar with is planting trees for carbon. I've been trying to push the idea that it's not just a monoculture of fast-growing species that can sequester carbon, but that we get other species in there too, so that we get the sort of biodiversity co-benefits of those projects as well.
Is it quite successful? And putting you on the spot here in front of everyone, but there's obviously a lot of big companies and mining companies that to buy carbon credits. Is it like a good project? I guess it's better than nothing, but Is it working?
Is it working? No. The Paris Agreement, which Australia signed up to in 2015, I think it was, said that we weren't going to we were going to do enough work so that global temperatures didn't rise above, you didn't increase more than 2 degrees, and we've gone past that. But yeah, planting trees isn't the only thing that needs to happen. So, and Australia isn't the only country that needs to do stuff. So it's a big challenge.
Is that something that led into the nature repair market? Is that still along those lines, or is it? So
the nature repair market will build on the carbon market in the sense that if proponents do plant biodiverse projects, so projects with more than 1 or 2 tree species in them, then they can potentially claim the nature capital that they're putting back as well. So ideally they'll work together. It's very much early days. We'll see.
Right. I guess, I don't know if anyone here has heard about the nature repair market, but it seems like it's a very cool initiative that's happening. Can we explain how it sort of works?
Yeah. It is exciting because Australia is leading the way. There's only one other European country that has a biodiversity credit scheme or nature market. And first up, it acknowledges that the state of our environment has been going in decline for a long time. So the government started nationwide state of the environment reporting in 1996, I think it was, and every 4 years we repeat the process. So looking around for any data that's reporting literally the state of the environment across air, plants, fauna, everything else. And that's been in decline. So the nature repair market addresses that, says, okay, this is one thing we can do to help reverse that decline. And there's apparently the people who do green economics suggest there's a $137 billion market in nature repair around green investments, around, say you sign up for a superannuation scheme and you tick the box that says, yeah, I want an ethical green investment, then nature repair is facilitated by that kind of investment. That's what I understand it to be, yeah.
I know you mentioned in our episode 12, if anyone's want to jump onto the podcast, more about the nature repair market, but the farmers and all that can get certificates for if they're trying to restore or if they conserve a certain number of bit of biodiversity or something on their place. How does that go?
Yeah, so the certificates are one way of having a tradable commodity. So yeah, so you've got a landowner who's done a lot of good work on their property, being a good steward and removing weeds, removing feral pests, planting native species or whatever, then they might get issued a biodiversity certificate, and that certificate stays with the parcel of land so that when they go to sell on their farm, it's worth more because it's got a certificate attached to it.
If someone gains a certificate, can they lose it?
Potentially, I suppose they could if they were naughty again.
Yeah. What about natural causes though? If say a cyclone or a tornado comes through, takes out a bunch of bushland, and then they, loses this tree species and all that through there, or is it just purely if it's human impacted?
No, that's a good question. So that's up for debate at the moment. At the moment, if a severe wildfire goes through your project and it's ruined, then you're back to baseline again and you start again. But in actual fact, in some cases, the vegetation could recover from a wildfire. But it gets incredibly complicated trying to account for all these things. So at the moment, it's just, bad luck. Sorry, you'll have to start again. But I think over time, it'll get more nuanced as we learn more and can predict more about which vegetation type where will recover from which disturbances in that landscape.
Jumping in now into, going overseas to the States. You've been there a few times. You spoke about working in swamps before. What did you learn in there?
What did I learn? I thought I had quite broad interest in ecology, and there's one memorable trip that Richard Hobbs and I did with Loretta, our colleague in Louisiana, and it comes up every year. We have a good giggle about this story because here where Richard and I, had been working in terrestrial systems mostly, and we had those waders on, the ones that it's just like plastic all the way up to here. You live in waders,
Well.
So already I'm uncomfortable. And then we're walking into this wetland habitat where the water sort of comes up here, and there's alligators around, right? So I'm just like, I just don't want to be here. Like, I don't want to be collecting data. I just don't care. Let me out of here, sort of thing. So I learnt that, I like marine, I like terrestrial, but in between.
Not the swamps.
No.
What about estuaries, though? They're kind of in between.
Estuaries are in between too.
Does Richard have the same opinion?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. So you've researched all over the globe, not just in the States. What contrast have you found between our bushland to elsewhere in the world? Is Australia pretty crazy?
Pretty weird, huh? Yeah. I mean, we often see pictures of like the platypus or something in a book, and like, oh my God, that's a weird animal, and it really is.
Well, I didn't think it was real to begin with,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. I think that's why so many of our weird animals ended up in like the Natural History Museum of London, because they would just get taken back and like, look at the next weird thing we've found, by those early naturalists. Jonathan and I travelled to Europe recently and love Europe. Yeah, amazing landscapes, but it just made me appreciate my own much more, because the species, the flora here, the plants, the animals, they're unique. Like, they don't occur anywhere else. Whereas, I go to Europe and I see, I don't know, species I've seen before.
Yeah.
Where's your wildlife, man? So there's that. Yeah, certainly. And then, of course, I love Banksia.
Yeah.
They sort of epitomise that whole how special our part of the world is. They've been here, probably more than 60 million years. Like, it's just such a long time. And although their ancestors probably arrived here from North Africa when Gondwana was all connected up, they really hit their straps when they hit the southwest of WA, and they've diversified and created a lot of different species that are unique to our part of the world. So, I just think that's pretty special.
Yeah, and do they function differently? Does our bush function differently to other places?
So when you look at the data across a bunch of different characteristics of I'll say plants because I'm more familiar with those, what really sticks out is our nutrient-poor soils and how that has created strategies in our plants that they've needed to adopt to live in those conditions. The sort of economic spectrum of plants, Banksia and other species are at the low end, where you're very conservative. You're saving every little bit of nutrient that you've got. You're pulling that out of your leaves before you drop it to the floor, that sort of thing, as opposed to the live fast strategy at the end, where you're less concerned about saving nutrients, kind of thing.
So we have one of the most nutrient-poor soils.
Yeah.
Compared to,
yeah.
And the most nutrient would be volcanic areas, right? Or is that?
Yeah. So lava and volcanic disturbance tends to create more nutrient-rich soils. So.
Going to ecology camp, I see you smoking cones with students. Not what you're thinking. You're actually putting Banksia cones in fire.
Yeah, in fire. Yeah.
Why?
There's a few different reasons. One, a lot of students come to ecology and they want to study animals because animals do things and plants just stay still. And they don't do anything. So when I do the cones, it's like, see, they're like opening, they're doing something. And it's also an opportunity to talk about the specialised woody cone, right? I mean, this is a hugely energetic thing that Banksias and other species in that family have gone to the trouble of to protect their seeds from really hot fire. So that's pretty cool.
And they need fire to open up. Is it smoke as well? Can like some open just from smoke, some is from fire? Is it like different levels of ferocity of the fire as well, or is it?
So where there's smoke, there's fire. So those two things are usually together. But there's a wee bit of resin that keeps the woody follicule closed with the seed inside, and the fire burns that off. And then that starts the process of the seeds being released after fire. And the seeds or the plants do that because after fire there's less competition from other plants because the fire has killed off some of the other plants. There's an ash bed which has got a bit more nutrition in it, so it's good for seedling establishment. And rain's also needed.
So this is like, that would go to the stages of succession, right? You've got like your colonisers. Is that the first one?
Yeah. Your
can't remember the next
pioneers.
one. Pioneers, that's it. Yeah.
Good remembering, Kurt.
I learned something. So when the seed opens up and it falls in fire, does it burn or is it like survive? Because it's like, if it's resin and the fire's hitting it, melts it away.
Yeah, it doesn't fall out straight away into the fire. It just opens and then slowly over time the seed will work its way out. So by the time it's worked its way out, the fire's passed through.
With climate change, are our fires getting hotter and they're getting to a stage that it's too hot for the Banksias? Or is...
Yeah, good question. That's not my research, but there is a scientist at Kings Park trying to understand that. So it depends where the seeds are. Like if you're buried in soil, then you're a little bit protected. But yeah, if you're sitting on a plant, you're less protected. But I guess that's part of the role of that woody cone. And different species will have different thermal tolerances, I imagine.
On the theme of climate change, you would have working about it for a long time. Where have you sort of addressed it and what projects have you worked on with that?
Yeah, so it's been a consistent theme because of where we live, right? So the climate's been drying since the 1970s. So first it's been to understand what the impacts of climate change will be. So that was what the crazy experiment was about. And then I've also thought about, well, given climate change, what should we be putting back? Like, if we're going to restore a community to this place where the future climate is going to be different to the one that's there now, like, is that actually a smart thing to do? So looking at sourcing seeds from hotter parts of a species distribution to kind of test that idea. I've also looked at long-term data to look for a climate signal in the data. So the long-term data describes seedling establishment each year for a period of 20 years. And so then you could go in and say, okay, was seedling establishment particularly low in the years that we had drought, as an example?
Was it?
No, it wasn't.
Why did you?
Well, I think, and what we suggested in the paper, which has been peer-reviewed, so therefore it must be true, because we have a Mediterranean climate where the rainfall is reliable. So we know that, give or take a couple of months, it's going to arrive, and when it does, we're assured of a proper wet season. So it appeared to us that the plants were more cued into that than the actual amounts they were getting or how long that summer drought period was thereafter. Yeah, and the final thing I did recently, which was a lot of fun, was do some scenario work with a bunch of colleagues. So one colleague had the idea that we would sit down and go, okay, let's imagine a 4-degree temperature rise. What impact is that going to have on our favourite community?
What is your favourite community?
So,
Banksias.
Banksias. But we thought about the Great Western Woodland. So this has got a very special place, largest temperate woodland on Earth, and still fairly intact. What is climate change going to do to that woodland, and using everyone's expertise and coming up with a best guess.
What were some of the guesses?
It's not looking good for trees, to be honest. We just don't think they've got the photosynthetic and respiratory sort of machinery to deal with those 4-degree hotter temperatures, and particularly species that are killed by fire, because the fires will get hotter.
Yeah, I said the undergrowth as well. Then if you don't have trees, they're going to start cooking a lot more.
Yeah, the shrubs will persist a bit longer, and then the grasses will probably win.
Yeah, right. So we'll just be living in big fields.
Yeah, so we'll have grasslands instead of woodlands. So yeah, anyway.
Okay, that's not a.
We've got a more positive story.
Yeah. Well, this might be positive or not. Depends. You've worked pretty much most of your life within a university, being casual, short term. You talked about your research assistant role, and then you worked up from short-term contract to eventually permanent. And what has that journey been like, from like the highs and the lows? Like, I don't know if most people might be here where they've gone from like contract to contract each year. Like, there's a lot of stress knowing like not having that security, right?
Yeah, it was at times, and I was lucky enough to have a 10-year period, and that was primarily because Richard was at the height of his success. He just kept pulling in more grants, and he needed people to do the work. So that was very fortunate there. But then, the privilege is getting to do what you really enjoy, meeting cool people, and so I tried not to stress about it too much. I have tried to leave academia a couple of times because of the uncertainty piece, but yeah, it hasn't worked out. So I guess we're stuck with each other. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad. Every uni camp's always a lot of fun. So being at being at the university, sorry, a big part of your job is teaching. What's it been like to be someone for students to aspire to and teach other students? Has this like really impacted your life to see multiple year groups go through?
Yeah, I mean, it's very fulfilling when you connect with a student, like, hearing your story, that's really nice. You want to hear that. It's not like that all the time, of course. And I think for me, the big lesson has been just, focus on the connections that do work, and you're not for everyone. I'm a pretty serious kind of lecturer. Like, I'm not going to make a joke halfway through, which is what my maths lecturer used to do to try and keep us all on our toes. But I will try and, speak authentically about what I know. And I've got a lot in my head nowadays, so it's like, I want to share it the best I can and represent myself the best I can. So, yeah, coming as an introvert into that space has been, a huge challenge.
Like as I mentioned at the very start, the genuine nature of you coming through and like helping inspire is like definitely helped a lot of people, as like myself. I think it is the people around you who are going to have big impacts on your life, and you have had a lot of major positive influences, and so many on young scientists as well that have come through. And in fact, I think we've got a couple messages from, just trying to get those to his attention. I think we've got some messages from...
Hello and congrats, Professor Rachel. That's so awesome to hear that you've been promoted to a professor, and it is such a testament to your influence on the research world, but also to all the students you've been able to mentor over many, many years. I'm so grateful that you were one of my supervisors during my PhD, and throughout my career I will do my best to keep people in check with their M versus their N dashes, but also to try and set the record straight on the difference between resilience and self-sustaining. I'm super duper proud of you, and I really hope that you're proud of yourself. Awesome work.
Rachel was a supervisor for my PhD, and she was absolutely amazing throughout that whole experience. I have lots of fond memories with Rachel, but I think one of the best ones was on ecology camp, where we got to work together for a couple of years. Some of the quiz nights were so much fun, and singing Dixon Dallas songs together was a real joy. Congratulations on your appointment as Professor Rachel. It's so well deserved, and you definitely earned it. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Rachel, on your promotion. You're a really great mentor and an inspiring role model. For the last 1.5 years, you've helped me navigate my PhD journey, and I'm really thankful for all your kind, thoughtful, and hands-on support. Thank you for always taking the time to listen and to provide new perspectives. I always enjoy our times in the field together and all the coffee catch-ups that we have with the group. I'm really grateful to have you as my supervisor, and I'm looking forward to the next 2 years with you in your new role as professor.
Congratulations, Rachel. You've been such a positive impact to so many people throughout your time, getting to this massive, really long end journey. And I've lost count of how many students and postgrads have just had nothing to say but praise for you. You've been such an amazing mentor and leader for me, and I strive to be like you in so many different ways. So congratulations, this is so well deserved.
Thank you.
So watching that, kind of just realised it kind of looks like I'm retiring you.
Yeah.
But,
not yet, young man.
We've got a few more years down at camp.
Yeah.
Rachel, you've been an inspiration to all of us, and you've done so much impact in the ecological world and science world, but also with students and everyone that's been around here. And you can see the number of people that have turned out here tonight. It has been fantastic. And I think tonight's been a lot of fun, and we had a lot of nerves at the start, but yeah, it was. We got here and we did it, and this is great. So yeah, thank you so much for today.
Thank you. And Dannon and Kat.
And yes, and the HBI team, Dannon,
thank you.
Alistair, Kat, Trina. It's been, so thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and everyone for coming along, being part of the Gen. Thank you.